Welcome back to Gooseberry Homestead. Reba here. So you guys, I've got all the spacers put into the 3 trees that were really needing them, and we're looking at the Fantasia nectarine right here, and you can see that it has really opened up the shape of the tree. Really nice. We've got them spread out. There's still going to be a couple of the branches that I end up taking off, the ones that are growing in towards the center of the tree. But for the most part, I got it spread open as much as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the limbs for now. I'm probably going to remove this limb right here. And any of the ones that are growing inward. So like this one, it's growing outward, but it's also kind of growing inward since I have these other branches over here. So I'm just going to be mindful of all of that. And so, but I'm not going to be doing anything right now. I'll wait till either later in the season, depending on which way things are growing. If things start crossing, I'll take care of things at that time. But I did get the extra spacers created for this tree, and I was able to open up that center just a couple more inches in this direction here. And then I have this one here going to this one here, spreading them apart more. So that is a lot better. I still would love to have a little bit more of an open center on the tree, but I think it looks beautiful now with the spacers training the limbs in a better direction than the way that they were. So they were just way too close, and it almost looked like they had tied a rope around all of the limbs, and it had sat like that for a long time as they were growing. And I'm wondering if at the nursery there was just so many trees so close together that it just caused all the limbs to grow really close to one another. So I'm thinking that might have been the case. Now the Bartlett pear, I've got one spacer right here in the center, and that's making this branch become more of a 45-degree angle. And then I've just put 2 stakes on either side, and I put rocks down in the bottom to hold the spacers in place because the dirt hasn't quite settled into place yet, so it's not as stiff. You know what I'm saying? It's like new soil. So now I've got those rocks in there to hold the stakes in place. So I've just used some of my Velcro, I guess it's like a Velcro. It's for tying up limbs and things like that, but it's really gentle on the trees. And I've got this limb tied to this one and this limb tied to this one, and that's just kind of opening up the center of the tree a little bit, so you can see here. So that looks way better than it did before. And this one is the Bartlett pear. The other tree that has kind of some really close limbs is this one right here, and this is my Rainier cherry. I'm gonna leave it alone for now. I'm not so worried about this one. I know it's gonna put a lot of branching on this year, some new branches. So I wanna see what new branches come on this year before I do any sort of pruning or training, because I may change up things in the future. So on this one, I'm leaving completely alone. There's 3 branches coming off the top, and I suspect that there will be some really good branches this year. The next thing I want to do in this video is I want to show you guys the gooseberries, and I'm finished with all of the pruning on them. I did that yesterday in my video, and this is how they're looking now. I've got a nice open goblet shape here on this one on the end, and we'll be watching the growth. There is new growth coming on down towards the base area. We got new leaves, and we've got new shoots coming up. So I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming up in the center of this gooseberry this year, which will give me more things for cuttings next year to offer to people. So I'll be looking at not doing a whole lot of pruning on these during the season. I will just remove leaves during the season. I'm going to let the limbs grow. That way I have available cuttings next. I'm wanting to say I should probably offer available cuttings at my Etsy store next year, probably mid-February, so halfway through February, and then start offering them at that point before the buds start opening. But while, you know, they're still a little bit dormant, so you don't have to have them watered at that point. You just need nice fresh cuttings, and I'll just take them right off the plant when I sell them. But I'll kind of have an estimate of how many cuttings I can get and offer on my Etsy. So there won't be a ton, but, you know, I'll have a small handful that I could offer. So all of these are looking really good. I've got a nice open goblet shape for most of them. They all look a little different, and they're looking great, you guys. I'm really, really excited. I've got off of these plants here, I was able to get about 28 really great cuttings just from opening them up. And I've got them already in my greenhouse in a nice warm area during the day, and I don't use hormone rooting powder or anything like that on them. I just stick them in the ground, you guys. They root very, very easy. Hormone powder really is not necessary for gooseberries, and so it's just really simple. They don't need any special dirt or anything like that. And so I'm rooting those. I've had almost a 100% rooting success rate with my gooseberries, especially my burgundy sweets, the 4 on the end. Those ones I have like almost 100% rooting, so I'm not so worried about any of that. But yeah, I've got 28 really good cuttings, and then I've got 2 that are they're on the smaller side, but that doesn't mean anything. Once they get rooted, they can grow like really tall really fast. So I'm planning on getting some of those 1-gallon buckets like I had before. When you see some of my earlier videos on my gooseberries, I had like my little herd. I'll have pretty much another herd of, I like to call them my herd, of gooseberries. And so I will have close to 30 gooseberries in 1-gallon container pots, and I can just put them out in the yard, and I'm going to let them get big, and then that way I'll have plenty of gooseberries in the future to offer as cuttings for people. And so I'm thinking ultimately when I finally we finally get our homestead established and my plants are actually fully in the ground in a place that we're going to be staying in, I expect that I will have probably around 50 varieties, or at least 50, not 50 varieties, but 50 of my burgundy sweet gooseberry plants that I maintain every year. And that's kind of like my goal for this moment. And as you could see, out of the 4 plants, I was able to get about 30 cuttings, and depending on the growth every year, I can have anywheres from you know, you can just do the math. You can get quite a few plants off of just a small handful of plants, so that you can create more plants with. So that's my goal in the future, and then of course I'm looking forward to being able to make gooseberry jams and offering those for sale also in my Etsy shop. And so yeah, I'm just looking forward to the possibilities of in the future, and that sort of thing. My basically little orchard, that's just for my family. Like, I'm not trying to have like 20 of every kind of tree, but I grew up with my grandfather having like this like food forest in California, and his trees were so tight that basically it was literally a jungle on this little half-acre plot. in California, and there was really hardly any wiggle room for doing much of anything on his property. And it was just really awesome because I grew up having pomegranates and persimmons and kiwis and figs, mulberries, olives. We would cure those. I wouldn't eat those fresh. I fell for it only once. And you know, there was apples and cherries, and we had pecan trees in our yard. And across the street was an almond tree. And so we would harvest almonds from that, and we would sit around in the living room after harvest times, and we would shell the nuts, and we would from the gardens we would snap the peas and pull all the little stringy bits out so that we would have stringless green beans and that sort of thing. And my grandmother would can everything. And then up the street there was this ranch. I'm calling it a ranch. It was a peach farm, and they had all these really, really great peach trees, which they're ripping the peach trees out now. Years and years later, the family sold their property, and the peach trees are all coming out. And I can't remember the name of the peach tree. The name I want to call, I think they were called foxes or something like that. Peach tree. It was in our local region where I grew up. And it was down there in California and Northern California. And so I'm probably saying the wrong name, but they had all these really great peaches, and people would come from around after they would have their harvest, and people would just glean off of the peach trees what was left. And we would always get in on the action, and we would get so many peaches from there every year. It was literally like a block away from my grandparents' house. And so we would walk over there and we would get all the peaches, and my grandmother would can everything. And I think my grandma she even had a plum tree. They had like 2 plum trees. One produced really well, the other one not so much. And so we would eat that. But then on the other side of my grandparents' property, there was a Italian plum orchard. And so we had those little black plums. They're shaped kind of like that, and those are like one of my favorite plums, and they're so sweet and so yummy. That is one of the plums I definitely want to have also in my orchard. I don't really care about all the plums. There are some really great ones out there, but certain plums tend to really hurt my stomach, and I'm wondering if it's because the plums that I buy at the store are picked early and they're not at full ripeness. And so I was used to eating plums that were perfectly ripe, and I would never eat anything when I was a child that wasn't perfectly ripe. And so now I'm thinking maybe that might be the reason why plums and that sort of thing like hurt my stomach really bad when I eat them. Like I'll like double over in pain because it's just maybe they just aren't ripe. And so I don't have that problem with some plums that I get from the store. Some of them are like soft and juicy and sweet, and then I won't feel any pain at all, and I think those ones are completely ripe. And so I'm thinking that might be exactly what was happening. But anyways, you guys, thanks for coming along for this video today. Keep you guys updated on everything. Things are happening. It doesn't seem like it yet because we don't have any leaves, you guys, but things are happening in the garden. We're seeing buds are pushing out leaves now, and everything is just coming to life. Slowly but surely, spring is coming. And I know this because my grape hyacinths are blooming by my front door, and the other hyacinths are pushing up, and I'm gonna have blossoms within the next week on that. And that right there tells me spring is like less than 4 weeks away, you guys. So I'm super, super excited, and I love having those hyacinths because they always let me know that spring is almost here. So you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming along. Comment, like, and subscribe. Click that bell button. And as always, you guys, just have a wonderful day. I can't say it enough. And God bless you all. I love you. Bye.